Hinckley pushed her way through the crowd. Those that noticed her looked away quickly. She was burned. The weird skin, the scars. The Lichtenberg figure left by plasma cannon was a common tattoo from the war. She had chosen to keep it rather than spend months in rehab. She missed the alien worlds. Out there, they didn't care. She was a human. Everyone was scared because a big, hard-ass predator was walking beside them. Here on Earth, she was just some ugly bitch that they should thank for her service. It sucked. Finally, she spotted her target. "Hello, you useless piece of shit. Why the fuck am I here?" Another human was sitting quietly outside a cheap Thai takeout. Supping noodles like this was his last meal. He looked up at Hinckley. "Sit down. Wait for your food. Shut the fuck up." Hinckley stared down. "Has that ever worked? Even once? Or have you actually ever met people before? Right now, I just want to shoot you. Again." "That must be why I don't have the rank or the medals. I knew I was missing something. We are being watched. Please, Captain, sit." She sat at the table. It had started to rain. "Well, Sergeant, you called. Why am I here?" The man looked up. Built like a tank built by a disgruntled postal worker in his mother's compound. The sergeant grinned. "You busted me to corporal." "Well, we both got promoted to civilian. So, what's up? Don't tell me I left my darling husband and 3 children for nothing." "You have a plant, made of plastic. It's still dying. Science can't explain it. You're here because of Black Body." Hinckley sat up. "Where are my noodles? I'm not listening to that crap without food." The rain got heavier, and the crowd dispersed. Eventually, only the two of them sat alone on the street. Hinckley regarded her old comrade. "How, excuse the language, the fuck did you organize that?" Sergeant Elysium smiled at her. "I own the weather around here. Rain or shine. All mine." "So that's where our budget went. I always knew you were a thieving bastard. Still, no one ever looks up. Nice work. Is this show and tell, or can we get to the point?" "Fine. Short version, you're fucked. Long story, you're fucked, but I found out about it and thought I better have a word. The Blackbody Satellite Corp wants you gone. You ended a whole product line. Someone lost their Christmas bonus." Still eating the noodles, Hinckley slurped. "Why go after me? So what, I can light up their hidden satellites like a fireworks display? Their tech is terrible. It took 20 minutes to find them. Definitely not a death sentence." "You're not understanding me. The bounty is out in a few days. They have lawyers preparing the charges. They have a pet judge and a pet government. They are about to sentence you to death. So yes, it's a death sentence." "Seems a little much. Can't they send me a strongly worded letter?" "Apparently not. It's not dead or alive. It's a dead ASAP warrant." The idea of being hunted by a bunch of desperate idiots on behalf of a faceless corporate overlord sounded fun. Life had been dull. Then the brief fantasy dissipated. The reality would be grief from cops and hassle from broken soldiers at the end of their rope, lawyers trying to lock down her assets. So who exactly thought putting a bounty on me would be a good idea? It's not like I'm some office snowflake. Her ex-sergeant smiled. "It's a Xeno. They bought the corporation. They want to make a name as a hard-ass security company, so they want to brand it as big, scary human tech providers. This was their shop window, and everyone just watched you take a shit in it. Share value took a dump as well." Hinckley stopped eating. She really didn't need this. "All right. I assume you have the details. Tell the boys to play nice for now. I'll go and have a word." She stood. Elysium smiled and waved his hand. The rain stopped. "It's good to see you again. I've prepared a full dossier on this crowd. I included one of my off-the-books ships. She's not much, but better than walking." The lights fell on her face. The lightning strike scars were dark on her skin. A brief moment of softness passed her eyes. "Thanks, Sarge. Good to see you again, too." She turned and walked back into the city darkness. The ship was an old belter bucket. Ugly, but it got you home. Inside revealed upgrades on nav, weapons, and engines. A bigger bang and a better turn of speed. It was named the Selene, one of the sergeant's ex-wives, if she remembered right. She opened the intel. The would-be hunters were a semi-aquatic race. Their name was unpronounceable. The translation was simply the people. She decided that assholes would do for now. They thought they were a big warrior race. They specialized in underwater combat. No wonder she had never heard of them. She had been a desert fighter. From the brief rundown, it had been a tribal world, then moved to commercial corporation government. A kleptocracy. Still popular after all these years. Whatever the company could get away with was good enough. Apparently killing her was fine in their world because she had dishonored the company. On the upside, she could kick ass, and no one would bitch about it. Time to go shopping. She left the Earth far behind her, feeling better every light year further away. The stuff she needed wasn't exactly available there anyway. The Shiva orbital was where she called home. Well, maybe not home, but as close as she cared to get. She had invested a lot of money here. When she arrived on an unregistered ship, the only question she was asked was if she wanted it valid. She did. Sergeant Elysium made everything smell of Thai food. She entered through the reserved entrance. It only took moments to get to her office. "You're back again, sir. You look terrible. Are you ill? Perhaps dying of something painful and incurable?" The AI was modeled after the first officer she had served under. A true piece of human garbage. She used it to annoy people and keep them from being too friendly. "Call my battle lawyer. Tell him I need an assessment. Also call storage and tell them to send the Prep 3 package to the Celine. Thank you for contacting Warlaws Inc. Your call is important to us. Please indicate if you are starting a war, defending against a war, unlawfully injured in a war, unlawfully killed in a war. AI only. Other. You have chosen Other. Please choose from these options. Human, Other, Existing Clients. You have chosen Existing Clients. Please enter your ID and password. A representative will be with you shortly. We apologize for the delay. Your war is important to us. Please hold. Hello, my name is Saul. How may I help you today, Captain Hinckley? I need to kill a corporation in... Hang on, I need to spell this out. Jasapk. Certainly, Captain. I see here you need to register as a corporation on the planet. After that, you are good to go. No bioweapons or extinction-level event weapons are permitted. Then file a declaration of war, E-457-A. I'll send you the details. Would you like us to arrange that for you? Sure, go ahead. Please choose a name for your corporation. Angry Human Killing Machine Corporation sounds about right. I need to abbreviate that. AHK Machine Corp is the best I can do. That's fine. I'll explain it as I go along. Sending you the paperwork now. Payment is in advance, of course. Sending it now. Always a pleasure, Captain. Her apartment was beautiful. The art spoke to her. The furniture was built to suit her and her alone. No more mass-produced crap like the army stuff she had lived with for years. The windows showed space. Clean, clear space. This was how far from the war she had got. She was proud of it. And now some scumbag was going to try and wreck it because of a minor mission that she ran from her desk. Fuck them. Now she had to go play soldier again. The despot of the Black Body Corporation swam towards his desk. The perfect humidity in the air and the temperature of the water were relaxing. He felt the salt might be a little high. Tide must be rising. He raised himself out of the pool onto the tiled floor. Back to work. He called his security team. Is the bounty announced? On the third floor, the security commander had been dreading this call. So much to explain, and he didn't quite know how to phrase it and keep his job. Yes, Chief. We alerted all the human agencies. Excellent. No doubt she will be dead before the next board meeting. Chief, it did not go well. All the human agencies refused the commission. They expressed surprise at our choice of target. Then they began laughing. The despot's whiskers began twitching. Laughing! Do they not believe us? Did they misunderstand? Explain this, or I will send you to the top floor for the rest of your miserable life. Chief, it gets worse. I was just speaking to the human security forces. Our representatives in Earth space are dead. Everyone involved in putting out the bounty was found, well, without going too much into the details, gutted. Once I explained about the bounty, they brought in a verdict of suicide on all our people and are refusing to investigate. At his desk, the despot's whiskers were now flapping enough that his secretary had left the room and had begun urging the staff to take an early lunch. Suicide! Impossible! Those were some of our best employees. The humans are lying. Chief, they said anyone posting a bounty on Hinckley was just suicide with extra steps. They refused to look for her in case, and I'm quoting, they find her and then what? The Celine was sitting quietly in orbit around the asshole's planet. Hinckley has spent a few hours messing with the satellite systems. They were now working for her. She began looking for the sort of deep intel that she needed. She listened in as Husek explained about the black body deaths. The fate of those scumbags in Earth space brought a rare smile. Apparently, the sergeant had carried a grudge against anyone trying to kill his old captain. She'd have to pick him up something nice on the way home. A new wife would be favorite, but he'd settle for a small planet. First things first. If they would drop the bounty, leave her in peace and let her go back to her life. A personal visit was in order. The despot was tossing and turning in his sleep, splashing water everywhere. His concubines had given up and retired to their own quarters. Hinckley landed softy. Nice to land in warm water for a change. She hadn't done an orbital drop in years. Now she thought it might be fun to do it again, without the usual gunfire and death. Perhaps she could take it up as a hobby. Her doctors were always banging on about finding an interest and stop screaming. The place was impressive. It reminded her of Iceland, all mountains, fjords, and lakes, but warm and sunny. This corporation controlled some beautiful land. Their buildings were odd to human eyes. The base of the target was open to the sea, but the quality of the apartments and offices diminished as they went up. Penthouses on Earth were the student flats for a semi-aquatic species. When her little adventure here was over, she could see serious commercial opportunities. Her mind turned to the task in hand. She spotted 11 security guards, 10 on patrol, 1 on comms, presumably the officer. Her stealth gear would probably be enough to ghost in, but what was the point of that? She was here to make an impression. A trail of corpses would do for now. She could use her winning smile some other time. She began with the officer, a single shot of her favorite ammunition. It was a straight headshot, followed by a paralysis drug designed for these idiots. His muscles locked solid, keeping his body in place while being very dead. Tidy. From a distance, nothing had changed, except for the back of his head. That changed a lot. Then she drew her knives and went after the swimmers. Normally, she wouldn't take on a race that resembled a two-legged walrus in the water, but these guys thought they were the best of the best. Humans could play too. Examples needed to be made. She reconfigured her suit to underwater combat. It absorbed oxygen, stored anything she exhaled, and hid her body heat. The first target swam above her. She rose from the depths and stabbed into the area her intel marked lethal. The body began sinking as she moved to the next target. By the time she cornered the last one, she was tired. They played a good game, but seriously, sentence her to death and act all surprised when she turned up? What was wrong with these people? Time to complain to the manager. Back on dry land. She had to admit she would have liked her team with her. So many entrances and exits to cover. She configured her suit to ghost and logged into the building. Their software was good. The hardware was 30 years behind. She could cut into the data with a spoon. The schematic opened up for her. She searched for a direct path to the boss. She hit the first of 5 security posts. She didn't want to wake everyone up. A change of plan, perhaps. She ghosted through security. Then she left a note for the despot and left. She called her battle lawyer. Hi, Saul. Quick question. Are the rules of acquisition a thing here? I mean, what happens when I win? Thank you for calling, Captain. I believe a hostile takeover is the term you're looking for. Yes, if you filled in the E457A, then you need the surrender of the chief officer. I believe they call them despots. Once you have that, you pretty much own the company. It takes 20 hours to process. Those hours can be difficult. Shareholders tend to object. I assume their shares are in the toilet right now. That was the point of killing me. Contact my stockbroker. Tell him I need shareholder status right now. Buy whatever is available tomorrow after 9. Tell him to call me back when it's done. It took several calls to persuade everyone that this was a good idea. 2 ships left Earth. Hinckley returned to the water and waited on the seabed. The first security shift began finding the dead. The entire night crew was missing. The despot was quickly awoken. He was handed the note. Despot of the Black Body Corporation. As per the rules of war, E457-A, the AHK Machine Corp demands your surrender. You will immediately inform you board of this attack. Failure to do so will result in your death. He shook himself awake. Where did you find this? Right beside your head. Call the board. I think we have a problem. There were too many dead to keep this quiet. The official declaration of war between corporations had been put on record, so the system forces refused to engage. The stock market tanked the Blackbody Corporation. An hour later, an unknown corporation began buying up shares. The board meeting was poorly attended. The news that everyone from the company in Earth space was dead and that security for the company headquarters had been decimated made for a lot of sudden illness. The room was high security. Heavily armed forces guarded the building. Money was no object today. The despot rose and began his speech. Members of the board, we must not allow this to derail our plans. Some obscure corp has declared a war. Fine, this is not our first. We lost a few dozen employees. We will just replace them. My home was invaded, yet here I am, secure, surrounded by the best security in the system. We will defeat these upstarts and continue to swim upstream. Suddenly, there was someone else in the room. It seemed to melt from the wall and walked through the water to stand at the end of the table. It was standing now facing the despot. It spoke, "Thanks for calling this meeting. It was easier than fighting my way through security. Simpler to get here ahead of you. My name is Hinckley." The board froze. The director of personnel just looked confused. "Do I know you? Why are you here?" Hinckley stared at the creature. "You decided to have me killed. Is this on the agenda?" Hinckley used her second favorite ammunition. This one froze the body. Well, most of it, kept the smell down. The former director of personnel fell into the water and gently floated towards the snacks. "I believe you have a document to sign, Despot. My lawyer has provided copies for you all." She dropped a tablet on the table. "Sign or die." The despot's whiskers were flailing around, the board looking at him in horror. I can't surrender to you. The investors will kill me." Hinckley just continued to stare. Killing her hadn't been a big deal. Fuck him. "If you resign, who takes your place?" "Well, the board elects someone, but—" Hinckley shot him. This time she used incendiary ammunition. When the corpse stopped burning, she kicked it into the water. She looked at the board. "I suggest you elect someone willing to sign, now." Despite protests, the director of finance was elected as the new despot. The only dissenting vote was his. Hinckley handed him the tablet. "Sign." He scanned his ID, confirmed his position, followed the many steps her battle lawyer had embedded in the document. Then the rest of the board verified the surrender. Hinckley called Saul. "Did you get that?" "Yes, Captain, all confirmed. You now control Blackbody Corporation. It will take 20 hours. Best of luck. I'll call you tomorrow." "Who is head of security around here?" One of the board raised a hand, Flipper, whatever. "Yes? He's out looking for you, I think. Call him. Tell him he is required by the despot." She had never seen a walrus, but she had seen the same pictures as everyone else in kindergarten. Now imagine that with the body armor and carrying weapons. The security chief was having a bad day. He had lost a whole team. The rota was going to be a nightmare for weeks. Everyone was on overtime. His budget was shot. Some lunatic human was shooting up the place. Now he had to meet the despot. In front of the board, he was only a day away from retirement. The boardroom door opened. Sitting in the big seat was a human. No, the human. He went to grab his weapon. No one moved. He pointed his gun at the human. "Raise your arms! No sudden moves!" The human spoke. "Chief, you are here to see the despot, correct?" The chief nodded. "Don't move." Hinckley just sat there. This was going to be fun. She told him, "This is my company now. I'm the despot. You need to get up to date. Ask the board. Look at the documents. I'll sit here quietly." The chief's whiskers were beginning to wave about. He saw the bodies floating. The board were all nodding at him, desperate that they didn't get caught in the crossfire. Hinckley leaned over the table. "You had a war. You lost. Now, for the next 20 hours or so, every investor and bank will be sending in forces to dispute this." The chief looked around. "And what are you going to do? A single human? You will die here." Hinckley leaned back. "That's why you're here. My forces are waiting to land. I don't want them shooting the place up. Tell your men to stand down. They can leave or accept a year's wages to fight with us for the next day or so. You included. Additional payment to such senior officers as yourself, of course. Make it 2 years on top of your pension." His gun never moved. "You don't have that kind of money. Even if you want me to work for you, I have seen your file. You were a grunt in the war. You made captain, that's it. No medals, no glory. Just a medical discharge. You're no one. Hinckley stood, the burns on her face casting a grim shadow over her expression. You read what was available. I was in the 81st Irish. That's who's coming. You see the scars. You probably read about us. We burned a world. Don't fuck around with us. The chief had been in the war. He made sergeant before the humans had crushed the Sijek homeworld. He never fought beside them, but he knew the stories. The final battle was classified way above his pay grade, but you heard stories. The humans had taken on the best equipped, best trained, and most ruthless empire in the galaxy. And won. The fighting Irish had been wiped out. They had held until they died. They held until the Alliance could reinforce. They won the damn war. No one survived, except for the medivacs. Shit. He lowered his gun. Apologies, Captain. I meant no offense. I will instruct the men. I would be proud to serve beside you. The board were entirely lost. What had just happened? Hinckley looked at the smug idiots that so quickly sentenced her to death. No clue about the value of life. To them, this was a fucking business deal. Assholes. Chief, what was your active rank? Sergeant, sir. Well, Sarge, take these idiots out of here. Clear the place of civilians. It's going to get bloody around here. Talk to your men. 2 ships landed. 80 men began retrieving their gear. Some moved slowly. Many dropped their bags and ran to greet other comrades, unseen since the war. Hinckley assembled the men. Good to see you all again. Many of you are here because you heard I was at risk. That threat is over. Those people are dead. I have a better offer. If we survive the next 20 hours, everything you see around you will belong to us. Equal shares in a country the size of Europa. We all remember how we were treated when we came home. Medals and fuck you. This time, if you sign up, you or yours will have the life they were promised. This isn't Sijek. You can leave now. If you stay, watch the clock. Less than a day. 4 men got back in the ships. They were the gunners. Get into squads, dig in. Last active rank rules. Fighting retreat is move up. Rules of engagement are prisoners if possible. Otherwise, if it holds a weapon, it dies. Sergeant Elysium stepped forward and saluted. Thought you might be a little upset with me, acting against orders and such. Those bastards had it coming. Hinckley looked at him. You always were a terrible soldier. Thanks. Now go meet your local counterpart. Set up the medical center on the 5th floor. We will need you soon enough, Doctor. Hinckley began touring her troops. Being a real captain again made her hurt in places she had forgotten existed. She hadn't thought this far ahead. She came here to slap some idiots around. Now she had offered a future to the most important people she knew. They had all been broken when the 81st Irish died. Then the war ended. They were disbanded. Nearly everyone here had woken up in a hospital bed. While the galaxy had celebrated the victory, they were being told that everyone they cared about was dead. But hey, we won. You're a hero. Now fuck off so we can party. She called them together. Today pays all. A new beginning for all of us. We are not the 81st Irish anymore. They died. We are still the Fighting Irish, an old name carried high in the blood and slaughter of history. Today it is ours. She had called Saul. The contract just needed to be signed off. Everyone got equal shares. She kept the company name. It seemed appropriate. Angry Human Killing Machine worked any way you read it. She approached a squad busy setting up a mortar in the vehicle bay. Morning all. One of the men turned around, his face registering who was speaking. Morning, sir. Good to see you again. From what the sergeant told us, we expected to find you dead. I probably am. He's just such a shit doctor that he can't tell. I'll wait for the paperwork. She nodded to the men welding the screens. Name and heirs, everyone. I bring contracts for you. Equal shares, fuck rank. 24 hours. Nominate an heir. People are going to die here. At the very forceful suggestion of Sergeant Elysium, anyone can nominate the 81st families as beneficiary. I say fuck them and stay alive. For many of the men, this was the first time they had felt at home in years. They had been born into a war and fought throughout their youth. Then nothing. Those that had kept or built a family rejoiced in the peace. Those without walked into an unfamiliar world. When word spread that someone was trying to kill the captain, it was a call to arms they sorely missed. A mission. Hour 1. The first signs of opposition appeared. Sir, detecting bodies in the water. Someone is on the way. Hinckley turned to her new sergeant. Do you have a name I can pronounce? His whiskers twitched. The closest would be Large Broken Fin. Flipper it is. Sergeant, take your men into the water. Take point. Slightly annoyed at the nickname, Sergeant Flipper nodded. Before I do that, I have something to show you. He led Hinckley to one of the office doors. I call this my special events room. If I had known who was attacking, I would have used these. The door opened onto an Aladdin's cave of hardware. A full armory, neatly organized and ready to go. Sarge, get this to the men. You're going to be rich tomorrow. Our 3 comms from the ships lit up. They were holding a stable orbit over the target. System forces were ignoring them. You have incoming. We see 17 troop carriers en route. Permission to fire? Give me a minute. Comms, call those ships. Attention incoming vessels. Retreat or you will be fired upon. Humans, surrender or die. You are unwelcome here. Hinckley frowned. Put me through to the flyboys. Why did everyone want to make this difficult? Light them up. You're the only thing we have in the air. Free fire until ordered otherwise. Go to work, boys. Plasma cannon opened up on the incoming ships. Perhaps they didn't know they faced enemies in orbit. Perhaps their intel was confused by Hinckley's satellite control. The first credit bank fleet was blown out of the sky. The burning ships crashed into some very expensive buildings. Hinckley made a call. Just who is liable for battle damage in this little shit show? Captain, attacking forces are liable. We are keeping track. We have already filed suit on your behalf. Keep it up. Saul, are you on commission? Oh yeah, and if you win, I get to buy lunch. Saul, make this work for me and you can buy the whole fucking restaurant. Do you understand? Yes, Captain. Hinckley moved from squad to squad, getting numbers, smiling and laughing with her people. She hated every minute of it. Hour 5. Beneath the quiet sea, a battle raged. Weapons were almost all hand-to-hand or area denial. There was no middle ground. If you stayed in one place too long, you got ripped up by shockwaves. Run into the battle or run away. Hinckley's few humans trained in this kind of combat were getting up close and personal with knives, spears, and finally grenades. Then Sergeant Flipper made the call and they began to fall back. They came out of the water. The Fighting Irish were waiting. Crossfire cut down anyone pursuing them as they ran to safety in the building. The enemy were too close to use direct air support against them, but these soldiers had held a city before. They may have lost their comrades, but they had never been defeated. Soon the sea went still, the enemy not willing to be seen. Hinckley lowered her rifle. Get me the ships. Yes, Captain, what can we do for you? You look busy. I'd like you to boil the fucking sea for me. Of course, chowder bombs in 10. Bon appetit. Both ships released thermal shock missiles into the bay. The missiles struck the surface, deploying a series of mines set to different depths. Then they detonated as one. A massive shockwave ran through the bay, followed by superheated water, then steam. The bay died. So did the stealth submersibles that had been quietly making their way towards the building. The Private Pension Incorporated troops boiled in their suits. The enemy that hadn't fallen to her men on the surface died to the bombs. After a few minutes, the dead sea life began floating to the surface. The smell was where the missiles got their nickname. Hour 7 Hinckley was watching the stock exchange. Weirdly, it provided good intel. When she saw another stock tank, she knew that they had killed off 3 attempts at ending her little invasion. She began buying up their shares. Happily, Blackbody Corp had a fuckton of shady cash, and now it was hers to play with. Hour 9. Captain, flyboys report a shielded surface fleet approaching. 4 hours out. 3 capital class, 4 frigates. They are from the central bank, the big boys. Do we have a plan? They can stand off and level the place. They sound nice. Let's steal them. Locate all our surface assets. There must be boats around here somewhere. She called her sergeants. I want to take them. They have the heavy guns we might need. I want you to get boarding parties together. Pretend we are back in space. Then it's like old times. There's no point in sitting here waiting for the sky to fall. Here's what we're doing. Sergeant Flipper listened. Despite his years in the army, the stories, the victories, the humans' behavior still surprised him. He expected fear or shock. Instead, everyone was just nodding and agreeing to what looked like a suicide mission. His people would have dug deep and waited for a chance to strike against the invasion troops that would follow the barrage, or died, or run. It would never have occurred to him to attack such a strong fleet, let alone board it because you wanted some bigger guns. Hour 11. Hinckley knew this was a shit show. The odds of pulling this off were long. She had hoped what little government they had would stay out of this. She would never say that to the men, they already knew. They already knew this was a long shot, but they were willing to smile and nod. They still trusted her. Take the ships, and they would live through the night. Failure, and they were dead by dawn. Poor Sergeant Flipper looked like he needed a lie-down. Wait until he found out his part of the plan. Hour 13. Hinckley had taken 60 men with her. A skeleton crew held the building, but, whatever, one thing at a time. She had found enough speedcraft to carry twice the number of men she had. An hour's work on the satellites was enough to give them cover as a totally friendly corp joining in the destruction of the evil invaders. "Go for it!" Sergeant Flipper called the flagship. "Trojan Corp to Central Bank Fleet, please respond." "Central Bank Fleet, this is a restricted area. Submit your details." "Of course, we are a registered investor enforcement force, sending details. We would prefer to coordinate with you in your attack on the human scum." Everyone on the boats waited in silence. Finally, the response. "Details confirmed. What exactly do you have to offer? Our orders are to just blow up the place. We don't need you for that." Sergeant Flipper just started making shit up. "As you saw from our details, we are an elite unit. We prefer not to be known for our work. We specialize in dealing with the human military. We can be of use. We intend to land, and we would prefer to do so after your attack, rather than during it." "Fine. I'll pass this up the chain. Don't move." Hour 15. "You are authorized to land. Please rendezvous with the flagship. There are too many of us to land on one ship. I suggest that I divide our men between the capital ships. Up to you, of course. Just a suggestion. Please wait. You are ordered to divide your men, rendezvous with the 3 capital ships. You will obey all orders from the respective commanders." Hinckley ordered her troops. "Get your shit together. These ships only have 20 or 30 crew. Kill them all. If you can capture the captain, fine. Speed is more important. Then turn the guns on the frigates." Hour 17. To the utter surprise of the crew, they were met by humans and knives. It was slaughter. Within minutes, the Fighting Irish had taken the 3 ships. No noise, no demands, just silent death. 2 captains survived. Pinned down and powerless, they watched as Captain Hinckley took over. "Get the frigates up close and personal. I don't want them anyway. Let's make a point." Frigates had a crew of 10. The computers did the rest. When they were told to line up like ducks in a cheap carnival, they did. Sink them. Pull out anyone who survives. They will have a hell of a story to tell. The smaller ships, all sitting quietly in front of the main guns, were overwhelmed by the attack. Quickly, they began to sink. Hinckley had suppressed their comms. No one was coming to help. Hour 19. Hinckley pulled the ships into the bay. "Get the men on shore. We have been very lucky so far. I'll set up the ships to work from there. Not long to go." The central government was unhappy. In general, the corporations looked after themselves. The problem was time. The 20 hours was sacred, otherwise the wars would never end. A call needed to be made. Hour 20. "Captain, a call. Central government. I think it is their leader. Probably." Captain Hinckley took the call. "Good morning, how can I help you?" The despot of despots said, "Welcome to our planet. I apologize for the welcome you received and the reason for your arrival. However, we need to talk. I have 15 minutes to decide if I nuke you or not." "Despot, your world has just acquired the Fighting Irish. In 10 minutes we will own land here. We will own the best security corporation in the galaxy. If you nuke us, we will die. So will you. Let us live by your laws, your rules, or fight. Your call." The despot looked at his staff, then at the galactic map. It was rare that this job brought any joy, but this was the best thing to happen to his corporate backers in years. They were assholes anyway. "Captain Hinckley, as despot of despots, I confirm your victory and welcome you to the court. I will issue a declaration to that effect to the stock market immediately. I expect you to attend your inauguration within the month." Captain Hinckley moved to her new office. Sergeant Flipper had been really impressed when she gave him and his men the ground floor, but she didn't like wet feet that much. They had won. Now what? The Fighting Irish regrouped. Amid the drinking and good cheer was a feeling that this was too good to be true. No one was surprised when the captain addressed them. "Congratulations, we now own the place. I will be meeting the despot of despots to sign the paperwork. There's a lot of people unhappy with us. We aren't finished yet." She called up the sergeant. Sergeant Elysium raised his glass. "Well done. To those I patched up, please remember no alcohol." Some of the men just laughed. "As the captain has said, the other shoe is still to drop. From what Sergeant Flipper has told me, we can expect merc attacks and cyber war. Please remember that we are the alien invaders. We are not the good guys here. That being said, gear up. The captain will be issuing new orders tomorrow, so except for the poor sods on watch, Slaint, she's buying the beer." In her new office, computers had been ransacked for information. Hinckley had secured a connection to the orbiting ships and then from them back to her own systems on Shiva Orbital. The captain and her two sergeants were looking at maps of the corporation lands. "This place is fucking huge. No way to defend it all with 100 men. Elysium, contact Earth. See who's willing to join us. You seem to know every ex-soldier on the planet. Sergeant Flipper, you're the local. Can we recruit anyone useful around here that we can trust?" From the way his whiskers were waving about, the sergeant was unhappy with the question. Hinckley was learning how her new people behaved, but keeping one close seemed to be the simplest way to study them. She was sure he didn't realize how important he was. "Not really. I can probably pick up a few that I trust, but anyone joining now would probably be working for someone else as well. The old investors are offering serious money to infiltrate us. I already sent a few of my men home for accepting bribes. I doubt I got them all." The captain nodded. "So we're on our own. Figures. Keep an eye on your men. On the upside, I bought 2 of the corporations that attacked us. I'll be meeting the other shareholders tomorrow. I'll need a serious escort. We need to be too big to attack. This is their fucked up system. Let's use it. Our battle lawyer calls it a hostile takeover. We do hostile really, really well." Hinckley had invited the directors of First Credit Bank and Private Pensions Incorporated to meet at her new headquarters. When they arrived, they were met by a solid line of stony-faced humans, armed to the teeth, to escort them. Full body searches revealed several weapons, a dozen different surveillance devices, and a butt plug. After some loud discussion between the troops, it was permitted. They were herded gently into the boardroom. Captain Hinckley sat at the top of the table, lukewarm water swirling around her knees. She had left the corpses of the previous board members floating about. She must make a note for the cleaners, then make a note to hire some cleaners. Some 30 civilians were led into the boardroom. Hinckley discovered that this species could also vomit. They had so much in common. "Welcome all. Before we start, I would like to point out 3 important facts for you. The first is that I am now the majority stockholder in your corporations. The second is that you are here because we slaughtered your military after you sent them to attack us. The third is the simple fact that I was able to buy your stock so cheap is that you, both personally and as companies, have a very low life expectancy right now. We are going to defend ourselves and our interests here. Lucky for you, right now that includes you. You can tell because you're not dead or dying right now. Now I need you to supply me all the codes to your corporate banking. I need a list of those you expect to attack you. Then we will be doing a public relations blitz about how fucking happy you are about all of this. Sergeant Flipper will take the details." Back in her office, she called Sergeant Elysium in. "I need 2 squads to babysit these assholes. We need more sergeants. Send me the best candidates we have and we'll put them to work on it." Sergeant Elysium looked injured. "Why do you need more sergeants? I thought everything was fine." Hinckley paused. "Congratulations on your promotion to Master Sergeant. Piss me off anymore and I'll make you an officer." Elysium shuddered. He had spent the whole war avoiding that. "You can't do that. You're only a captain." It sounded weak even as he said it. "Sergeant, this is my private army. Despot, remember? If I want to announce I'm a fucking field marshal, there is nothing to stop me. No need to be hasty. I'll send the best we have. There's no shortage of talent around here." Comms called through. "Captain, incoming call from the central bank. You might want to take this." "Put them through." "Congratulations on your victory, Captain Hinckley. I am the chairman of the central bank. We might have been a little hasty in attempting to intervene in your advancement. The despot of despots has made his full support of your accession to the court very clear. My board would like to make it clear that we will not intervene in the future. However, we were wondering if our ships would be returned," Captain Hinckley reflected. It served no purpose to weaken the despot of despots right now. Also, she couldn't afford the manpower to crew surface ships. Aside from the odd boarding action, her people fought better on land. "Chairman, I will happily return your ships to you. I expect some kind of ceremony is appropriate. Also, if you could announce that, perhaps due to the need to train new crew, your fleet will remain in our bay for joint exercises with us." The chairman got the point. The humans wanted credit for the victory, a nice show of goodwill to the despot of despots, and a friendly fleet on their waters. He could see why the DD liked her. Once again, the stock market was her friend. Shiva AI alerted her that the mercenary troops around the planet were on the up. A few calls and some digging showed that they were being booked up by several corporations around her. It looked like a land grab. They were not security companies or old investors just looking to push the borders a little. Or a lot, if they got lucky. 4 ships left from Earth, 1 left from Shiva. She would need her toys for this. Now it was a race. Time to go back to what she was good at. The office work was getting dull anyway. "Sergeant, put together a strike team for me. You're in charge of this all if it goes foobar. Get our people out. I've transferred most of the money to Earth. Everyone still gets paid." Sergeant Elysium knew what that meant. If the captain was going to war, no point arguing. "How many men?" "I'll take 20 men. You should have reinforcements coming." They looked at each other. They had both heard that before. It never ended well. "I'll send them to the armory. I assume you'll meet them there?" "Yes, then to the boats. I'll call the flyboys for cover." Her men had turned back into the professional killers she knew them to be. They knew what the numbers were. They knew that if the captain was in charge, then this was going to hurt. Someone. Hopefully not them. Hinckley opened the armory. "Help yourself. We will be hitting multiple targets, short and sweet. We aren't trying to hold ground. Just fuck them up and move on. Free fire. Probably all mercs. Gear up." The boats slid quietly into the inlet. Apparently, this was, of all things, a shoe manufacturer. They had hired over 200 mercs that, hopefully, hadn't arrived yet. They were looking for cheap gains against the fighting Irish. This world was seriously ill-informed. The doors were guarded, normal security, not equipped well enough to be freelancers. She sent her men in. The mall cops obliged by dying quietly. She went to work on the security systems. "We have full access. Kill them all, fry their systems, and get into position. We wait." Her men cut down everyone they found. Simple security guards, surprised at their posts. Then they hit the IT section. Frankly, it was embarrassing. Apparently, some things are universal since there was just one person looking after the whole lot. He dived into the water and fled. They just shot stuff until it stopped beeping. The mercenary troops landed, disgorged from shuttles in front of the building. "I like their shuttles. Wait till they're closer." For the mercs, this was a day trip. Everyone knew the humans had fluked a win against some security guards. Their contacts in the central bank fleet said it was just surprise that allowed them to win. Tomorrow, they would be fish food. 20 men stood ready. Teams of 2 had chosen their ground well. Crossfire, mines, mortars, and misinformation all waiting. Hinckley watched as the merc troops approached. Now! 10-1 are good odds. Most forces would be embarrassed to lose against it. The mercenary troops didn't have time to be embarrassed. Out in the open, on prepared ground, with comms ruined, all they did was die. Hinckley led the charge to finish it, rifle held high and a knife when she needed it. "Call the sergeant, tell him we have choppers." Hinckley's 20 moved towards the next target, leaving everything dead or burning behind them. Elysium sent men to collect the rest of the shuttles. The captain had only needed 3. "Captain, flyboys report that the mercs are landed on the target." Hinckley cursed fluently and well. She used several languages. She cursed their ancestors, implied that their parents were siblings, that the mercenary force was a combination of idiots and assholes with a death wish. It took a while. "We are landing now. Get the shuttle prepped." Her men landed 20K from the next target. Another office factory type, some sort of fruit-based widget, nothing useful. They obviously had money. Her satellite feed showed heavy weapons being emplaced. Intel estimated over 400 enemy troops, not the kind of odds she was looking for. Amongst the gear seized in the last attack was the ammunition and equipment for the recently deceased Merc troops. Her men could build a weapon out of 2 sticks and a pot plant. The long siege had taught them all. Given a shuttle and a literal fuck-ton of weapons, and it wouldn't take long. "Give it your best. I want these fuckers gone before they attack the base. Free fire. Get it done." A very tired and proud engineer showed her the result. "Captain, welcome to the Apocalypse bus, or the Fifth Horseman. We couldn't decide, so you pick." Hinckley looked. It looked exactly the same. "Perhaps some details before I make such an important choice." One of the troops started to explain, his head nodding at every point. "So it looks the same. We went internal only, but the engines are now just impact bombs. They can fly the 20K, then they go critical." The smile of a happy Army engineer is a terrible sight. "Before that, the comms just asked for clearance. We had the codes from the last lot, so hopefully no incoming fire. Brilliant. Then we harden the front. It should go straight into the building, while the engines drop outside. It will be so cool." Hinckley was remembering why she didn't want to be a soldier anymore. Those happy days of watching the plan fall apart. Of the dead. Of humanity's complete lack of limits when you push them too far. She nodded too. It was catching. "And then what happens?" The engineer smiled. "Then there isn't a building? Thank you. I chose Apocalypse bus. Send it." The shuttle lifted off. Her men followed at a safe distance. They were geared up. They also knew that they were taking the piss. Attacking an embedded force 20 times their size? The only reason they got on the shuttle was because of the captain. She fought not for glory, not for orders, but to keep the dream alive, the dream of going home, of peace. Throughout the war, her men died, but more lived. If this kept the base alive, she would die with them. They would die, but dying for your mates? Fine. They had all lived because someone else was dead. It came with the job. The shuttle came in limping. Too high, too slow. Comms reported they had been attacked while landing. The shuttle was allowed to pass. Then the engines fell off and the ship nosedived into the building. The engines alone took out half the Mercs. Over a square kilometer was burned away as they went up in fire. Then the free-falling shuttle crashed through the roof, plasma packs ejecting and exploding on every floor. When it hit the ground, the reinforced nose exploded with enough force to evaporate the ground floor. The building collapsed. Then Hinckley's men landed. She watched the building fall, like old times. "Go to it. Survivors disarmed or dead. Move." Master Sergeant Elysium took the call. "This is the office of the Despot of Despots. We need to speak to Captain Hinckley." "She's busy. Perhaps I can help?" "Are you the designated survivor?" "No, she's alive and well. I'm second in command is all." "Please hold." The DD was enjoying the show, but still, his backers were unhappy. For a start, some of them were dead. Others had lost money. Much more serious. "Master Sergeant, I hate to interfere, but could you persuade your captain to stop blowing things up? I know you're unfamiliar with our system, but a show of force is usually enough." "Sorry, we don't usually do that. Perhaps if you called off the Mercs?" "Don't worry about them. She has wiped out 2 entire bands. The others are retreating as we speak. I would hate for her to miss her inauguration by dying." Master Sergeant Elysium made a call, the call he wished he could have made years ago. "Captain, bring the boys home. We won." The inauguration was a spectacular affair. Normally only friends, family, and investors showed up. But this was a show of force and a surrender at the same time. No one wanted to miss it. The major corporations, those that had ruled for generations, sent heavily armed troops. Short of putting them in tanks, they wanted to be clear that they were not weak. The smaller corporations settled for sending diplomats and gifts. The humans arrived in their new shuttles. Landing in battle prizes made a very unsubtle point. Over 400 humans marched towards the palace, unarmed. The waiting crowd was astonished. They started trying to work out what it meant. Why these humans would risk annihilation at the hands of their enemies. In the stands, urgent whispers between despots and their security teams followed. "Do we attack?" "Sir, perhaps they only appear unarmed. We have no idea what would happen. Surely they wouldn't just arrive unprepared. Maybe they have forces in orbit. This could be bait." "I can literally see them. Unarmed, in formal uniforms. We could wipe them out. Right here and now. Do it." "Sir, the troops will not obey that order. We were in the war too. This is the Fighting Irish. Fuck you." The corporation's troops began to salute as the Fighting Irish formed a corridor for the captain. Wealthy men stood by in frustration as the alien invaders were applauded, literally applauded, as they formed up. Captain Hinckley walked between her men. Master Sergeant Elysium walked behind her, his wall of flesh between her and the odd sniper. He could never be persuaded to just walk beside her. The despot of despots waited at the entrance. The palace was everything money could buy. It reminded her of Florence. She stopped on the mark. Now to see where this would go. The despot of despots began his speech. This was once in a lifetime, a chance to impose real order on the world, to ally itself peacefully with the major power from the war. His people were going to be so happy, and his backers so pissed. He reckoned he'd be dead or deposed in a week. Despots, guests, today we welcome Captain Hinckley to the court. No need to dwell on the details, I'm sure you all know the circumstances. She is now the despot of 3 corporations. As such, she is entitled to a title. We have many, but I am creating a new one. Captain. For her service to her people, we now award that title as one who is appointed ambassador to Earth. Captain Hinckley will be given full responsibility for our dealings with her people. For those who disagree, I also name Captain Hinckley as heir to my title. Kill me. She gets the codes. I have waited years to do this. Fuck you all. This system needs to change. Captain Hinckley stood, listening as the responsibilities piled up. Ambassador, heir, Captain, despot. Sergeant, get the men armed. Now! Every second man moved back to the shuttles, re-emerging in full battle gear. Within minutes, the humans looked a lot less friendly. And then it was her turn to speak. Normally, a simple thank you, a smile, and wave was enough. That had been her plan. Not today, apparently. Despots, guests. I believe we all find ourselves in unknown waters. I seek no conquest. I was attacked, I responded. Such is life everywhere. What is mine will stay mine. Humanity is better than me. We here are the sharp end. As ambassador, I hope to bring you better than this. I am proud and honored to be made heir. Let me assure you that the violence I have inflicted on those that attacked me will be inflicted twice over if I am forced to take that office. I did not seek influence. We will work towards peace. Don't ever fuck with the Fighting Irish. Thank you. The private meeting between the DD and the captain was unusual. Captain Hinckley started. How long did it take to plan this? The variables alone? The DD smiled. Your Sergeant Elysium, I met him in the medical ward, doing the usual smile and wave tour expected of allies. A very clever man. Hinckley nodded. Never seen anyone trying to hide it as much. Good man, though. I'll be honest, Captain. I'm not sure he's human at all. But he said you could win for both of us. That it was meant to be. You will be taking my office in shortly. That you would take my people to safety. I'm pretty sure I made it clear what would happen if I have to become despot of despots. It will be ugly. Your sergeant said you would never make it home, to Earth. That you would build a new one instead. I saw your apartment. Everything, even the smallest things, were important to you. Now you have a new planet to organize. And you get to die? I could kill your enemies. Save us some time. Nothing will save me. My previous heir already has assassins on the way. My bankers want me dead. I'm old. This took quite a while to organize. I'll die laughing. The despot of despots put down his drink. Ask the captain to return, please. Send in medical as well. Hinckley was already on her way back. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? She was interrupted by the DD's personal guard. Wait, certain procedures are necessary. Medical examined the corpse. The note, the poison, the recording all showed what happened. The list of procedures was clear. Across the planet, it was announced. The despot of despots was dead. Hinckley was announced as heir, successor, and ambassador at the same time. We, the Court of the Despot of Despots, are proud to announce that Captain Hinckley, Ambassador to Earth, Despot of 3 corporations, appointed successor, assumes the office of Despot of Despots. Long live Captain Hinckley, Despot of Despots.